The first phase was very successful. Everything that was predicted by Mel Hendrick as what would be there has proved to be the case. Focusing in one relatively small area, the drilling results speak for themselves. We look at this and we say the best place to find a mine is near a mine. And we happen to be in an area where we have surrounding operations.
Hello from Toronto. It's my 16th year here in Toronto at PDAC, which is the biggest fair on the mining industry, and I'm happy to talk today at the booth of Sonoro Metals, which is an exploration company in Mexico. And I'm going to talk with the chairman, John Darch, I know for the last 30 years, and he has built a lot of successful companies in his history, and so he's extremely experienced in raising money, marketing company, building companies, and I have been involved 25 years ago in some of his ventures and made a lot of money out of it. John, hey, it's good to see you again here in Toronto, and I'm glad that you joined the Sonoro team as chairman. Give me a background of yourself briefly, and then we talk about Sonoro.
Okay, thank you, Wolfgang. Pleased to meet you again. Myself, I've been involved in natural resource development for some 35 years. A series of successes that we have had with Asia Pacific Resources, which discovered the largest potash project in Asia. Investments of over $100 million, and the stock went to $10 before it was taken over. Crew Development, you may remember also, which has then changed its name to Crew Gold. It was a well-structured company which after about 3 years was able to have a good revenue and an expanding number of projects. So that's one of 2 or 3 or 5 companies, and the other one you'll remember is Western Geopower, which was my first meeting and working with Ken.
Excellent. And John, what has guided you into Sonoro Metals? What is the intention for you to build another junior company to a more substantial company?
Well, thank you, Wolfgang. That's a very good reason for doing this, is because after successfully developing many companies, I decided in 2006 to take a sabbatical. I decided that I would try to do something to help an impoverished hill tribe in northern Thailand. And it was a private venture to take them from opium to growing coffee. It was a personal one that I funded for over $5 million. And then in 2018, it got to the stage where my son took over, and I stepped aside to be the ambassador. And it was quite fortuitous that Ken asked me if I would be interested in Sonoro. And when I looked at Sonoro, because I'd known Ken for so long, 40 odd years, worked with him well in Western Geopower, I decided to examine closely. I looked at the share structure. I looked at the fact there's 30 odd million shares outstanding, 40% owned by the insiders. Ken himself has over 4 million shares, an excellent project, and most important, very high qualified geologist, Mel Hendrick, who has discovered and developed projects like this for many, many years. That's why I decided to join.
That's a very good explanation. Thank you for that, John. The first drill phase has been completed and it was very successful. So what is the guidance for the next 6 to 12 months for Sonoro?
That's a very good question. The first phase was very successful. Everything that was predicted by Mel Hendrick as what would be there has proved to be the case. Focusing in one relatively small area, the drilling results speak for themselves. It means that we have a resource which I cannot define at this stage because we haven't completed a 43-101. But I'm pretty comfortable to say that when it is released within about 6 weeks, it will confirm the confidence that Mel has in it, and it has given us confidence to announce today that we move to phase 2. Now phase 2 will take about 4 months, and the importance of phase 2 is it will take the work that was done in the phase 1 and through infill drilling and also to expand into known mineralization. There's no wildcat. We expect to increase our area of comfort by about 30 or 40%. That will take 4 months. The program has been initiated, and so we're very, very comfortable that will be successful.
I mean, we know that under the TSX rules you cannot really give the detailed numbers before you release any report. But give us an idea, are we talking about 100,000 ounces, 300,000, or what potential do you see in that asset for our investors? That would be important to understand. What is your growth plan? Where is the upside and the potential, even if you have not a 43-101 report out already?
That's a very good question, and I'll answer the best I can. The initial work Mel had projected should have something about 300,000 ounces. I can only say that we would expect the resource to be very comfortable. Phase 2, we would hope to expand that to maybe 500,000 ounces. And that would be followed by a phase 3, another 5-month program, which we would hope to get to that level of 1 million ounces. But I would say that this is all subject to the results that come out of the ground. The comfort that we may have is the ability of Mel as a geologist to identify and have proved similar properties. So that's as much as I can say. It's certainly, I would say, in about 6 weeks we can say more.
That makes absolutely sense, and keep in mind it's not a 43-101 out already, and it will come shortly, but this gives you an idea what upside and potential the company sees in its exploration activities. John, looking at the last press release, it looks like you want to guide into the Asian market to raise capital. What's behind the last press release? Could you comment on it, please?
Well, certainly, and I think it's something that needs to be explained. Historically, all the funding that I've raised has been out of Europe, whether it's Switzerland, Germany, Norway, etc. Probably over $300,000. That's 300 million. Make sure. $300 million. I'm sorry about that. So we look to where we are naturally in what's happening with the resource market. We look to the fact that there are many small junior companies that are here. Many of them are trying to raise funding, and they look at the Canadian market, they look at the European market, and there's not such a strong appetite at this time. It may be changing. I think the gold market is coming back, so it will change. But what we see is there's great potential in Asia. One of the things that everybody has seen is how the Chinese companies love natural resources, but they like ownership and they like production. And you will have seen in the work that you've done where they would go for energy or copper or gold, and they go into a country and then they will actually invest there. So with that in mind, we went to Thailand, went to Hong Kong, we went through to Singapore. And in Singapore, we met a company called Improved. Improved is a boutique company. They specialize in raising non-dilutive, non-recourse, which is a key word, non-recourse loans for small companies. They become tailor-made. Because we are small and we don't fit into the major league of the banks, and we all know the restrictions that are there, they responded to my request of how do we access the Asian market by saying, this is the way you should look at it. Understand that Chinese investors do not like to have the unending dilution of exploration companies, therefore they shy away. What really makes them interested is the ability for a company to produce gold. Understand that they want to invest in a business. Well, we are not in production yet, but by having the ability to move forward with production, we then move and elevate ourselves to a different level. And an important point I think we have to make here, Wolfgang, a very important point. This gold bond or non-recourse debt that we will have, that will be by nature in being marketed, go to a very wide range of Asian investors. Our profile will be raised from that. And we would expect that will result in attracting Asian investors. There's no guarantees, but the expectation is high.
I like that strategy, doing financing on a non-dilutive basis. By the way, I'm a shareholder of the company as well. There might be a conflict of interest, that's why I'm outlining it here. But John, what are your neighbors? I have seen Agnico Eagle, Premier Gold. Assuming the company would have such a success and prove up a resource, let's say near to 1 million ounces of gold, do you think those surrounding partners, being also operator, would have an interest in your asset and maybe buy one or the other asset from you as Sonoro, as Agnico has done before?
It's very difficult to predict, and I don't want to be presumptive in any way. So I would take a different approach. We are in the center, almost surrounded by operating companies, such as the one you mentioned, Agnico Eagle. And it's true, they actually did buy a property from Sonoro, which was incidentally identified by Mel, the same team. So, and they've actually issued excellent results. So we look at this and we say, the best place to find a mine is near a mine. And we happen to be in an area where we have surrounding operations. And I'd like to make a further point. When people talk in terms of a mine, they have the imagination of somebody with a helmet going down a hole, constructing a mill, and it's maybe 5, 10 years, then you're going to build it in hundreds of millions of dollars. We have to understand the project that Sonoro has is an open pit heap leachable operation. And I'm not trying to be self-deprecating, but really it is a glorified earth moving. That's all it is. It's earth which happens to contain gold. And that's why we can have the same level of expectation as to value as you would a higher grade project which is underground. And give that some thought. If we are able to demonstrate the mineability of this project by all the pre-feasibility study that goes into this, and the pre-feasibility study means that we will come up with a summary as to the economics and as the mineability, as the equipment, as the capital costs. We're able to demonstrate all of that. On a comparison basis, it will be seen that X number of dollars here on a relatively low grade open pit will be far more economic and profitable than a much higher grade that is hard rocking underground. And an important part of the Cerro Caliche property is that it's mineralized from surface. There's hardly any overburden, and it's known to be mineralized down to 75 meters, 100 meters. And we are at the beginning of the exploration. A lot of the work was done by the old timers, who they'd only operate if it was at least 10 grams. So they didn't do any more. And previous companies who had these properties, they were in an era when it was $700 ago. And so the world's changed very much. So at the current level of gold, it will be a profitable mine. And that's why when a major company will look at this project, they will take the view that it is a large resource, a relatively low grade, easily mineable, in a state that's very friendly to mining, and we are adjacent to neighbors that actually are operating. So it has all the ingredients for success.
I like that business strategy of the company. And John, thank you very much for the great interview. We want to follow up on the company on a regular basis. We will inform our investor community, and I wish you all the best with phase 2 and 3, and hopefully you can find enough ounces to get it to a level where other people may have an interest in the company or the project.
Thank you very much, Wolfgang.
My pleasure.
Thank you.